Good morning, students. In the previous classes, we discussed many concepts related with motion. We practiced many types of problems. Okay. Today, in today's class, we can just revise the chapter motion. Okay. So in this chapter, first we discussed motion. What is motion? The change in position with time is called motion. Motion can be described in terms of the distance moved or displacement. What is the difference between distance and displacement? Distance is the total path length covered by an object. What is displacement? Displacement is the shortest distance between initial and final point. What is the unit of distance? Meter. What is the unit of displacement? It also meter. Distance is a scalar quantity. Displacement is a vector quantity. Distance never zero. Displacement may be zero. Okay. So next, the motion of an object could be uniform or non-uniform depending on whether its velocity is constant or changing. So we discussed uniform motion and non-uniform motion. What is the difference between uniform motion and non-uniform motion? Uniform motion means if an object covers equal distances in equal intervals of time. Uniform motion. What is non-uniform motion? If an object covers unequal distances in equal interval of time, or equal distances in unequal interval of time, or unequal distances in unequal interval of time. If distance or time is unequal, that is such type of motion is called non-uniform motion. Next, we discussed speed and velocity. What is speed? Speed is the ratio of total distance to the total time interval. What is velocity? Velocity is the ratio of displacement divided by time. Okay. So what are the differences between speed and velocity? Speed equal to distance divided by time. Velocity equal to displacement divided by time. Speed is related with the distance, so it is a scalar quantity. Velocity is related with the displacement, so it is a vector quantity. Speed never zero, but velocity may be zero. So they are the differences between speed and velocity. So we discussed what is motion, what is distance, what is displacement, what are the differences between speed and velocity, then what are the uniform and non-uniform motions. Then what is the unit of speed? Unit of speed is, yes, meter per second. What is the unit of velocity? Unit of velocity also meter per second. So these terms you have learned. Okay. Next, what is the acceleration? What is the acceleration? Acceleration is the change in velocity divided by time. What is the unit of acceleration? Meter per second square. Acceleration of an object is the change in velocity per unit time. Okay. Then uniform and non-uniform motions are explained using a graph. We discussed two types of graphs. What are they? Distance time graph and velocity time graph. So first is distance time graph. This type of graph is called distance time graph. What is the distance time graph? A graph drawn time along x-axis and distance along y-axis. This type of graph is called distance time graph. This is an example for distance time graph for uniform motion. If an object moves uniformly, this is the graph of distance time graph. Another graph is velocity time graph. What is the velocity time graph? A graph drawn time along x-axis and velocity along y-axis. This type of graph is called a velocity time graph. This is the velocity time graph of uniform motion. Okay, from this graph we can calculate this area. By calculating this area under the graph gives distance. Okay, the slope of the distance time graph gives speed. We can measure this slope, okay, from A to B. By measuring this slope, we can find speed. By measuring the area under the graph of velocity time graph, we can find distance. Okay, next point is the motion of an object moving at a uniform acceleration can be described with the help of three equations. What are the equations of motions or kinematic equations? Number one is V equal to U plus AT. Second, S equal to UT plus half AT square. Third, 2AS equal to V square minus U square. So we discussed these three equations in detail. Okay, we derived these three equations from the velocity time graph. Using these three equations, we solved many problems or many questions. Okay, so what are the three equations? V equal to U plus AT, S equal to UT plus half AT square, 2A is equal to V square minus U square. What are the use of these three equations? To solve. These three equations are used to solve problems related with mechanics or related with motions. At the last of this chapter, we discussed circular motion or uniform circular motion. What is circular motion? Motion in a straight line is called motion in a straight line. Motion in a straight. What is motion in a straight line? Motion in a straight line is called rectilinear motion. Motion in a circle is called circular motion. If an object moves in a circular path with a uniform speed, that is called uniform circular motion. So these are the topics related with this chapter, motions. Okay, so first we discussed motion, then uniform motion, non-uniform motion, distance, displacement, differences between distance and displacement, difference between uniform motion and non-uniform motion, then definition of acceleration, next graph, distance time graph, velocity time graph, next derivation of equations of motion, three equations of motion, next problems related with these equations of motion. At last we discussed circular motion and uniform circular motion. So this is the end of this chapter. This is the end of the chapter motion. Okay, thank you.